Another tally in the win column. Dolphins fans, as our favorite team, knocked off New England Patriots in week 8, 31-17. Now 6-2, remain atop of the AFC East. Despite the Bills already taking care of business on Thursday, we responded, did the same. Sweep the season series against the New England Patriots. Obviously, already beat them by a touchdown back in week 2. Tua now 6-0 against what's considered probably one of the best coaches in NFL history in Bill Belichick. 6-0. Now, it didn't come flawlessly. It didn't come necessarily easy, despite a 31-17 victory. We'll go over all of that in the video today. But before I jump into my top takeaways, my player, my game ball, player of the game, however you want to word it, before I get into all that, I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts, drop your top takeaways in the comments. Curious to see how you thought the game played out as well. But why I say that the game wasn't necessarily flawless is because when we're up 14 points in the fourth quarter, we've got the ball. We've got a chance to completely seal away this game. We go 3-0. Then, you know what happens. New England scores. We cut it to 7. I instantly get these flashbacks to week 2 when we continue to just find these new ways to shoot ourselves in the foot, make little mistakes along the way, keep New England along in the game. Thankfully, just like in week 2, we didn't give it all the way up. We held on to win. We did the same thing today. Our offense responds, puts them away. We put together a 10-play, 75-yard drive, kills nearly 6 minutes off the clock. Obviously, Tua connects with Jaylen Waddle for the game sealer. We'll talk more about that play in depth later as well. But first, I got to start with the defense because, yes, indeed, it's funny. We don't get Javon Holland. We don't get Xavier Howard in the game. But, hey, we get Jalen Ramsey back, and welcome back indeed. Let's talk about the entire defense first. Tua throws an interception. Poorly thrown ball, didn't see the defender, wishes he could have that one back. Sets the Patriots up at the 30-yard line. They go ahead and score. That's the Kendrick Bourne touchdown. Then, opening play on the second half, when we have a chance to double dip again, because we had a field goal right before halftime, Stewart, Mostert, the exchange doesn't happen. We fumble on the first play of the second half. Sets the ball up on the 19-yard line. Defense holds. Defense holds well. We limit them to a field goal. Outside of that, all of their drives, all the New England Patriots drives, one scoring drive that they actually had to go out and earn it, that we didn't just completely set them up. Their drives, 5 punts outside of that scoring drive, 5 punts, an interception thrown, 1 kneel to end the half because they had no time, and 1 turnover on downs. Fangs, you did it. Fangio, that was beautiful, especially the way Mac Jones looked. We're not talking about an offensive juggernaut. I get that. But the way he looked, how efficient he was against the Bills last week, that is how you respond. And Jalen Ramsey, interception in his return back, and a beautiful play as well. You don't see this from every cornerback where he's on his man, recognizes that there's a receiver about to hit that honey hole, completely leaves his man, picks the ball off, returns it into New England territory, sets up that field goal that we got right before halftime. He also had a forced fumble on a carry by Zeke Elliott, which won't go down in the stat sheet because there was a hold on the play as well, but you saw instantly what he does as a tackler and a big hitter and a turnover producer right there. I think he maybe gave up 1 completion on the day, but man, that dude showed no rust whatsoever. Welcome back, Jalen Ramsey. In general, defense, we held Mac Jones to 161 passing yards, their run game to 77 yards. We got 3 sacks and the interception. Jalen Phillips led the team in tackles despite basically still playing on a snap count. He had the sack at the very end of the game, that last drive by New England. And why I point that out is because it's exactly what you want. At the end of the game, if you can rush with 4, maybe 5, have your guys drop back in coverage, but yet get pressure on the quarterback, and that hit that Jalen Phillips was able to put on there, that is exactly what you want those edge rushers to do to close out the game. Christian Wilkins with another sack today. I believe he's up to 4.5 on the season. But my favorite Christian Wilkins play of the game, that tackle that he made on the outside of the hash marks on Zeke Elliott, where it looked like Zeke had some room after that. That tackle that Christian Wilkins had, you don't see many defensive tackles that can make that exact play. Another nice showing from Christian Wilkins today. Bradley Chubb with another sack. Believe that's 3 straight games with a sack. All in all, great defensive effort. Once again, most of the points that they gave up on defense were basically given to them by our offense setting them up. And we're about to get Xavier Howard and Javon Holland back. So talking about those injuries, let's bleed a little bit into some injury talk and updates. Because Xavier Howard, Javon Holland, both inactive for this game. So those two guys. Connor Williams was active, but didn't play, damn near almost needed to, which we'll get into. Because Kendall Lamb gets hurt. He does eventually come back, but still got dinged up, missed some times. Robert Hunt, starting right guard, he gets hurt. He does not come back. So Robert Jones then moves into left guard. Lester Cotton started at left guard, moves over to right guard. You following all this so far? And I've been told that Robert Hunt, following the game, the team believes he's probably all right. It looks like he avoided anything serious. Regardless, it was still an injury that kept him out the rest of the game. We'll keep an eye on that throughout the week. Later in the game, you get Brandon Jones, takes the hit by Juju Smith-Schuster. He gets taken back to the locker room. Earlier in the game, you get David Long with more friendly fire. He has to leave in the game at some point. Factor in the guys that were already missing, the Teron Armsteads of the world. Today, talk review videos. Survive in advance. With all of these injuries, yeah, we're a better player. We're a better team on paper than the New England Patriots. We already beat them once this season. There shouldn't be any injuries. But today was truly survive and advance. And here's the crazy part about all that. You watch this game, offense, we didn't look crisp. We looked quite sloppy, I would say, relatively speaking, compared to how we've looked previously this year, how great we can look offensively. We didn't look like that today. We still scored 31 points. We threw for 324 yards. Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle combined for 15 catches, 233 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Our offensive line at one point consisted of Keon Smith, Robert Jones, Liam Eichenberg, Lester Cotton, and Austin Jackson. That's one day one starter. And that day one starter was Austin Jackson. If I'd have told you that was going to be the case, let's just say this preseason, I'd have told you that, you'd have said, we're going to lose this game. We're going to lose this game by 20. We're going to lose this game. But I tell you what, Austin Jackson, he held it down. He was the one starter at that point in time. Despite all of that solid offensive statistical output, even a couple of nice runs late in the game when we needed them in that final drive to really seal things out. But yeah, I tell you what, it's going to be good to get healthy. It's nice to get a win when all things are considered with all these injuries. Let's move on to another takeaway, because this time Tyreek Hill was indeed better than any sort of scheming that Bill Belichick brought up. Because Bill Belichick loves to take away your best offensive option. That's what he does. That's what he's been doing his entire career as an NFL coach. And he did that to an extent in week 2. I think Tyreek had about 45 yards and a touchdown. Tyreek won, though, today. 8 catches, 112 yards, and a touchdown. 2 of the throws is interception. We've already talked about that. The next drive, our playmaker, Tyreek Hill, boom, bomb. Looked kind of like that play against Philadelphia. I don't know what teams are doing again. 42-yard touchdown. I even give Tyreek Hill a lot of the credit on the Jaylen Waddle touchdown that sealed the game, because Tyreek goes in motion and his production, his speed, everything he does draws both defenders his way. Both of them follow him as he goes up. Waddle just kind of finds room going across the middle of the field. You couldn't have had an easier touchdown, and that's set up because of a guy like Tyreek Hill. Now over 1,000 yards through 8 games. The first wide receiver in the Super Bowl era to eclipse that mark in 8 games. 1,014, if my math is right, for the season. 8 touchdowns for the season, which means he's averaging nearly 127 yards and a touchdown per game. I don't like to extrapolate stats too much, because sometimes that can paint a bit of a lie, but we are 8 games through the season. That projects him at 2,155 yards and 17 touchdowns. The best statistical season we will have ever seen from a wide receiver if he can stay healthy and keep this up. So if Tua Tagovailoa is indeed the league's MVP, go ahead and give that guy, Tyreek Hill, the Offensive Player of the Year award. Let's talk about my final game and player notes before I get into that game ball. Going 3 for 3 on 4th down in the first half alone. Remarkable on our side. Absolutely killer on New England side. And Bill Belichick, even, he had mentioned it at halftime. Like, you think you're about to get off the field, and then you're not. And some of those turned into scoring drives as well. And even the yards that the Dolphins were able to get on that one, like 3rd and 15, put them in an opportune position to be able to even go for it on 4th down. So that is clutch. Gotta love to have a coach that is not scared to make those 4th down calls, but even better yet, execute when he does make those calls. Jaylen Waddle, Talked about several good things. He had his best statistical day of the season right now. Great diving catch earlier in the game. He was knocked off of his route, was able to recover last second, jumped, dove, was able to catch that ball. That was a huge pass in that game. But outside of that, 3 drops. And I know that he's had some drop issues in the past. That's something that he needs to work on, needs to overcome. It gets a little bit sickening at some point in time because you just know that so much more potential is out there. And there are some crucial drops there as well. I know the one pass from Tua wasn't great. I bet if you talk to Jaylen Waddle, though, he would say, yep, I definitely have to catch that ball. I loved how the offense responded after our turnovers. Like I said, we had the one on the second drive, and then we had the one on the first play of the second half. Sucks having multiple turnovers in a game. You're not going to win a ton of games when you're doing stuff like that, but to be able to respond on the immediate drive after both of those turnovers, respond with touchdowns, that is absolutely huge. Chase Claypool, active today, had a nice catch and run to move the sticks. You saw him getting in there with some blocks in the run game as well, contributing on special teams. And another wide receiver, Cedric Wilson, with what I believe, I didn't fact check this, I just don't remember him scoring in the past with us, I believe was his first touchdown as a member of the Miami Dolphins. So nice to see other pass catchers getting in there and take advantage of opportunities as well. Let's talk about that game ball. And like I stuttered through in the intro, I want to hear who gets your game ball as well, because go ahead and give me Jalen Ramsey, cornerback number 5 for our Miami Dolphins. What a great thing to say, and what a great debut he had for our Dolphins. An interception in the first game back, the big hit on Zeke, which forced a fumble, which will be forgotten because it won't be in the stat sheet. But I tell you what, that was a tone setter. What a way to get him and his confidence back. Super, super pumped to see him, Xavier Howard, and Javon Holland all on the field at the same time. Hopefully as soon as next week against the Chiefs, because we're going to need all hands on deck for that one. That is what I have got for this one. Like I said, let's hear your top takeaways. Let's hear who gets your game ball in the comments. And we'll be back to preview that game in Germany against the Chiefs very soon here, Dolphins fans. But until that time, go ahead. Let's take advantage of the Survive in Advance. Go ahead and celebrate however you do it. And let's enjoy this one, Dolphins fans. Until next time, fins up.